The weekend, foreign leaders responding to the attempted assassination of former President Donald Trump. Joining us right now is Kurt Volker, former U.S. ambassador to NATO and currently distinguished fellow for the Center for European Policy Analysis. I'll just ask it to you straight. What do you think the rest of the world thinks of us now?
First off, a lot of concern if we see that kind of political violence in the U.S. Against a candidate from the right. They're going through their own domestic politics this year in many places. We just had elections in the UK and France. They're going to be worried about political violence there as well. Secondly, I think that they are probably now even more convinced that President Trump is going to be reelected. So they're going to be making plans for what his presidency would look like. We just had a number of NATO leaders here in Washington last week, 32 different country members of NATO. And they already were coming away with a perception that Biden administration is looking weak and Trump is looking like he's going to come in. They're now going to be cementing those views going forward.
You know, the thing that I think we're all trying to figure out, and Roger Altman alluded to this when we had him on the program earlier, is how much instability we should take away from this and what you think it represents in the larger context in our country. We were making the comment that the markets this morning actually are up, I think in large part because there's now an expectation that former President Trump will become the president and perhaps maybe some of his policies, whether around taxes or regulations or other things, will be beneficial to the market. But do you see something larger happening here?
Well, actually, I don't think instability really characterizes what we're seeing here. We saw that the shooter failed. The Secret Service responded quickly after their initial failure of letting him get there. He's going forward with the Republican National Convention this evening. The president spoke from the Oval Office, calm for calm. President Trump is going to be speaking as well. So this is actually a lot of show of the strength of American institutions despite this incident.
So the other component part of this is, I think the world is now, I imagine, based just on the polls, believing that former President Trump becomes the president. How do you see that playing out when it comes to some of these international and geopolitical major issues which we're confronting right now?
Well, I think in some areas, and take dealing with Russia, I think that there's been a perception that Putin has been taking advantage of a sense of weakness and drift in the West. That may change. China, I think, is going to be looking at a very strong position from the United States, maybe even acting preemptively in the next few months before the election to see if they can get away with anything. I think President Trump has made clear that he believes the U.S. is not always treated fairly in the world and would look to tariffs as a way to try to level the playing field. Well, adding tariffs like that in a global economy, that can have ripple effects and unintended consequences. So I think people will be preparing for that as well.